Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's stream. The third Thursday in a row that I'm streaming. I'm not sure if that's a record, but I've not been that consistent since I started this whole thing, or rarely, I guess. So, yeah, super happy to have you all here today for a little Ask Me Anything. And then, depending on if questions run out or not, we also might do something else. But yeah, it's been a while since I did the last Ask Me Anything stream, so I figured why not have one today? And yeah, I see there already are a bunch of questions, so obviously I'll try to go through all those questions. And yeah, I hope you're all doing good, and whatever you want to know, I might not be able to answer everything. I don't know everything, but I'll do my very best to answer all your questions, whatever they may be related to. So, I guess let's jump right in, shall we? Anything, yeah, that's a fun one. The question by Shamoil, anything? Hi, everybody. And after getting ChatGPT, now there is no debate like front-end and back-end versus full-stack learning. Should we learn all now? That is, I don't think you need to learn all now. I'm not sure if ChatGPT changes a lot about that. I do think, however, that with AI, you can do more now than maybe in the past. It's easier to learn new things. It's easier to write code you're not an expert in, I guess, which is also a bit dangerous, I'll say that, but it's definitely easier to build full stack apps now with AI because AI can help you with that. So you don't need to become a full stack developer, but if you want to, or if you want to build web apps on your own, I think it's easier than ever now with AI. And related to that, how long can software developers sustain? If AI can do it all, would switching the career be better? Well, the big question is, obviously, and I get that a lot, and I understand why, what does AI mean for us developers, right? So does that mean that we all need to switch jobs? Will AI put us out of our jobs? And the honest answer is nobody knows what will be the case or what will be the reality in 5 or 10 years, right? So nobody knows that, obviously. Now, that being said, I don't see AI putting developers out of their jobs anytime soon for a couple of reasons. One important reason is that with AI, you can be extremely productive as a developer, which is why I would recommend that you use it, that you leverage it, that you don't ignore it, but that you also don't blindly trust it, because that is the big downside with AI. It does produce garbage, not just garbage. I use it all the time. AI is very helpful. I'm not one of those people that say everything that's produced by AI is garbage, but there is garbage in what it produces from time to time. And we still need people that are able to tell the garbage from the good parts apart. There are certain parts of an application I would not blindly trust an AI for when it comes to building that. And then, of course, not all development is React front-end development, which is where AI really excels at. But even there, if you use AI for that, there's so much bad code being generated. And I'm not just talking about bad code from a philosophical standpoint, like, oh, it's bad, it should be better. No, I'm talking about code that will bring performance issues, that might crash your app, security issues. So yeah, obviously, I don't know how good or bad AI will be in 5 or 10 years, but I do strongly believe that for the foreseeable future, developers will be needed and just can get more productive with AI. That is really my what I'm convinced of here. Now, yeah, I guess that is my very long reply to that question. An overview video of Fast AI, Fast API, sorry. I'm not a Fast API expert, so probably not a video anytime soon. Maybe an exploration video, exploring it together, but not like a tutorial. What would your recommendation to a programmer with a few years of experience in today's AI world be? I see many negative videos about future. Yeah, I guess like what I already said about AI and developers. applies here too. I've been a software engineer for about 6 years now. I'm not the best at it, but I feel like I strive in leadership and communication. What transition or what should I transition to? Obviously, I can't tell anybody what they should transition to. I can just share my thoughts on what I think is the near future of developers. In general, I'm pretty convinced that if you don't like writing code, if you just do it as a job and get no enjoyment out of it, that in general, even before AI, might have been a reason to look for other positions, other jobs. It's perfectly fine to just write code to make a living off that. I'm not saying that that is not fine. I'm just saying transitioning into other jobs obviously is always a good idea, no matter what you do. If you don't like what you're doing, if you do like what you're doing, well, there can always be reasons to switch to a different role, but continuing what you do sounds like a good idea too. I want a system design course from you. Please bring it. I'm taking so many courses. Your biggest fan. Thank you so very much. So amazing to read that. Means a lot to me. Truly, it does. Regarding the system design course, I've had that request quite a bit. I should probably really do one. Now, I'll try to put it a bit higher up on my course idea list. It's a long list. I can't promise it, but yeah, I hear you. I've heard it before by other people. A system design course might be something that is in order. But yeah, no promises. I got a bit too many projects going on. What should be actionable steps for a student who knows MERN stack to get a job? No matter what your tech stack is, to get a job, you need a portfolio to show to potential employers. So what I always recommend the same, I guess, but it really is what I would do. Build a portfolio, build demo projects, which are public on your GitHub profile, contribute to open source, but if you do that, do it in a really helpful way. Don't spam open source repositories with meaningless contributions. Don't do anything like that. That's just annoying. Try to really get into open source projects and provide meaningful contributions and build demo projects, clones of popular apps, AI apps, whatever you want, so that you build a portfolio which you can show. That's my recommendation. So yeah, lots of highs here. Hi back to everybody. Vue or React? Vue or React? So React, let's be very honest, is the framework or library or however you want to call it that is more popular these days. More companies are using React. More developers know React. The ecosystem is bigger, and probably also pretty important, AI knows a lot about React. But, of course, it also knows a lot about Vue, just a bit less than about React, because there simply have been more React repositories in the training data. So if you want to get a job or anything like that, there will probably be more when it comes to React, but there also will be more competition, more developers that know it. Vue is a bit more niche for sure, but that can also be a chance. If you ask which one I personally like more or which one I enjoy more writing, I really like React. So I'm not saying that I don't like it, but I always found Vue extremely pleasant to work with and to write. So yeah, that would probably be my personal favorite. But yeah, I've written so much React code in my life. I do like it too. Should we learn PHP in 2025? Sure, why not? PHP is an amazing language, amazing programming language. I'll admit I have not written any PHP code in the, in the last like 6 years or so. But I've been exclusively writing PHP code. I guess around, or almost exclusively, around 2014, 15, and way earlier than that. So yeah, it's an amazing language. And nowadays, probably more amazing than ever before, especially with frameworks like Laravel, of course. Hi Max, we need a full-fledged Go-based backend advanced course from basics to advanced. Well, I do have a Go course, which does not stop at the basics, so it does dive into more advanced territories, and it also covers backend development. I'm not sure if you're looking for an even more advanced course. I don't have that, and I don't have it planned yet, to be very honest. I'll note it, but again, I have so many ideas and projects. But I do have a Go course, and of course, you can find, whoops, that's the wrong one. You can find all my courses with discounts on academind.com if you're interested in any course. Under courses, whenever you click on a course here, you'll be taken to the course page and you'll get a discount. And the Go course is there too. What's the best way to start a new web project in 2025? Is it still Next.js 15 or something else? Well, Next.js 16 came out, but I personally haven't used it yet, to be very honest, so I'm not sure about that. Let me shift the camera a little bit. So there's that. But yeah, Next.js is a good idea. Next.js is a good idea. Also for the AI reason. AI knows a lot about Next.js. Also some bad parts, but generally it will be able to assist you with Next.js if that is a factor. And you'll find plenty of resources on Next.js. That being said, there are so many options and there aren't really bad options. It doesn't have to be Next.js. It can be like a React single page application and then let's say an Express or a Hono backend, like a separate backend API. You could do that. You could use React Router in framework mode as an alternative to Next.js. You can use TanStack Start. You don't even have to use JavaScript. So whatever you feel confident using, I'd use that, because using a tech stack just because it's popular, if you don't like it, will never be a good idea in my experience. Whenever I forced myself to use a certain tech stack I didn't enjoy, that led me nowhere. So yeah, that would be my recommendation. How to find big front-end projects to make it and add to the CV. So if you want to add projects to your portfolio, I'd simply clone what's out there. Build your own Amazon clone, your own Facebook clone. And of course, when I say clone, I don't mean add all the features these sites have. Just pick the main features, like add a shopping cart, a products page, and stuff like that. And polish that, of course, like polish it visually. If you add a backend, make sure that you cover all the main things that can go wrong, add authentication, and that will give you a pretty nice project with a lot of features that you can add to a resume. And then, of course, you can add more of these projects. You can add some fun projects where you build like a image generator with AI. So you write the code to use the APIs by OpenAI or by Google to generate images. So yeah, really like a mixture of projects that show different kinds of skills that you can build visually appealing sites, that you can add stuff like authentication if you're into full stack and so on. Is Capacitor.js still good for Android and iOS app development? I guess so, but I'll be very honest, I have not used Capacitor or Ionic for the last, 3 years or so. Whenever I built native apps over those last years, I've reached for React Native and Flutter, to be very honest. So I don't have like a good opinion on that, I guess. Planning to release front and backend together so they would be available at the same time. Deployment happens in GitLab. What would be the best way to do this? Repos are separate. Well, that's a fairly technical question. Always hard to answer these, to be very honest, without more context. And also, it's not really a tech support session here, I guess. But if you have like different repos for backend and frontend, but you always want to release them together, I don't know about GitLab, to be very honest. On GitHub, what I would probably do is I might use a GitHub action, and then in my action, I would probably just send a request to the other repos action, so to trigger a deployment there as well. Or if I kind of need to merge the code, I would probably put it in one repository to begin with, but if that's not an option, I'd just pull the code of the other repository into my GitHub action flow and then like merge them there, do whatever I need to do. And of course, it doesn't have to be GitHub Actions, can be any CI/CD tool. Why you do not talk about Java, Spring Boot, Java ecosystem in general? Simply because I haven't worked with Java and Spring in years. I've never worked with Spring at all. And my last Java piece of code I wrote has been, I guess, probably... Well, it's been a long time ago, like 20 years or so. So yeah, I have absolutely no expertise in that. I have an associate's degree in computer science and no experience. Is building my own project the key to getting a job? It's not that key, but it's one building block. Obviously, it takes applications. It takes a portfolio that consists of multiple projects. Doesn't hurt to, as I said, have meaningful contributions in open source. Doesn't hurt to have connections. All that stuff will matter. Having like a good CV in general. But yeah, having projects is the thing that can show employers that you can do stuff. Obviously, with AI, you could have used AI for that. So you'll have to prove during the interview process that you built it. You might want to make sure that your code doesn't look like AI generated with a bunch of comments. But yeah, that is definitely important. How can you please tell me how I can use AI to make projects not wipe coded? I'm stuck really bad. So yeah, when it comes to using AI efficiently as a developer, I got a course on that. And the AI for Developers course, and I'm currently working on an update for that. But of course, don't want to force anybody to get that course. What I do, what works really well for me in Cursor. So here's Cursor. This is actually from that course update, a tiny part. When you use AI, let me move that over to the left. What I do here when using Cursor Agent. So for two things. Sorry. One thing I really like is the tab completion, right? So if I make a change and then I rely on Cursor's tab completion like that, you have more control than if you use the agent. But I do use the agent a lot too. And whenever I do that, I try to really focus on individual problems, don't have super complex tasks. I add context very deliberately, so I manually point it at files it should include for creating its answer. I don't try to ask for like 5 different features, just 1 or maybe 2 closely related features. So really like controlling the AI, giving it a lot of context and like don't give it a lot of room to wander off and do all kinds of weird stuff, but instead you really want to like force it as far as that is possible to do the thing you want it to do. It's a lot of things like that. If I, for example, know that something should be done in a certain way, I will give it example code snippets as part of the prompt. Like I might say like build blah, 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 whatever that is. Here's an example from another project, and then I might include something like example here with these XML tags just for separation, and then have my example code here and do stuff like that. So it's really also about prompt engineering and so on, and keeping like the scope pretty small. AI will not replace us. I read how AI works, a joke. Yeah, so as I said, I don't think AI will replace developers for the foreseeable future, but I do believe you can use it to be a bit faster, to be more efficient, but blindly trusting it is definitely not the right choice. What do you think about Dart on the server? So Dart, the language that's used by Flutter, for example, I haven't used it for that at all, so I don't really have an opinion on that. Sorry. I don't know if it's good. I don't know how well the ecosystem is. I would imagine you have to build a lot of things on your own because there probably aren't that many packages for Dart on the server to help you with, I don't know, authentication stuff, but I don't know. I haven't used it. Hi Max, I just want to share my thoughts. I watched your latest video. AI makes me stupid. I'm having exactly the same thoughts and feeling like I'm losing my coding skills. Yeah, thank you, Raman. So in case you missed it, anybody wants to watch it thereafter on my main YouTube channel, I shared a video a couple of days ago. AI is making me dumber. And in there, I basically talk about, I do use AI for coding, as I said, but the problem I have is that I sometimes like fall into that trap of using it too much. Like, there are situations where I should get into the code myself, and that would be more efficient, but instead I keep on prompting out of laziness or habit or whatever. And suddenly you lose the connection to your code base. There are certain features you might have never written on your own anymore. Like the last 3 months, you might have never like built a custom, I don't know, modal overlay. Let's say you always used AI for that, and suddenly suddenly these tasks get a lot harder than they used to be because use it or lose it, right? Whenever you have a skill that you're not using, you get worse at it. So yeah. Happy to hear that you can relate with it. It's really dangerous to rely on AI too much. If you want to be a web developer, I mean full stack developer, do you recommend Laravel or Node? Both are fine. I would recommend whatever you know. If you know neither of the two, I would recommend Node because that is the language, so to say, I'm using and I like it. But let's be honest, Laravel is an amazing framework that has basically everything you need built in. You can be very productive with it for sure. I have worked a lot with Laravel like 7 years ago. I loved that, so it's amazing. It's probably a bit easier, I guess, to get into. PHP and Laravel is probably a bit easier than the entire JavaScript ecosystem with all its problems. So yeah, but I personally really like JavaScript and Node.js. So that's why that would be my recommendation. Even AI generates code that is working. It's not in style or pattern. If you're familiar, it's kind of garbage if you cannot maintain it. Yeah, true. So the problem really is if you lose the connection to your code base, if you use AI too much, you don't know what your code is about. You don't understand your code. And it can take considerably longer to understand your code again and then fix all the tiny problems that might be in there than if you would have written it right from the start. Which is, again, I really want to use AI for small isolated features. It's great for boilerplate code and stuff like that, but generating like your entire code base with it is not something I would recommend. My company wants Angular and I am React. Should I go to Angular? How much time will take? Is 1 month enough? And where can I find an enterprise example? So if your company wants Angular, you probably have no choice there. You probably have to learn it. When you know React already, you can definitely pick up the fundamentals of Angular in 1 month and be okay at it, I guess. As always, it will take longer to have like a deeper understanding of common patterns and so on. But you can get there for sure. Now, regarding where to find enterprise examples, I don't know, but what I really like doing when I learn a new framework or I want to get better at a certain framework or library, I like just to dive into other open source packages that might be related to it. So for Angular, for example, you could dive into a component library package like the official Angular CDK and take a look at the code there to understand which patterns they're using and so on. And I find that very helpful. Please make a course on TypeScript. I have a course on TypeScript. Good news. And I even updated it earlier this year. So my understanding TypeScript course, that one here, was updated, fully updated this year. So I got it. AI is helpful for quick and dirty suggestions or code snippets. It's like a second brain, but I will not trust it in production anytime soon. And you should not trust it in production, at least not blindly. You can use it as an assistant, as I always say, but blindly trusting it is not a good idea. It definitely is not. Which does not mean, in my opinion, that you can't use code written by AI in production, but only code you reviewed or adjusted. So it's really like a hand in hand. Should a full stack developer need to learn deployment? It depends. If you're working in a company and you don't need to handle deployment, there's no reason to learn it if you don't want to. I personally always enjoyed learning all that server side, that server configuration, sysadmin stuff. I don't know why, but I really like messing with Linux and servers and hardening them and SSH and Docker. And for some reason, I liked it. I like really diving into CI/CD flows and so on. But yeah, if you work on your own, if you play around with the thought of building your own applications, which you also want to deploy, you still don't have to learn it. You can use services like Netlify or Vercel. But I always liked it. I think it's a good skill to have if you know how to deploy, if you maybe even know how to administer servers and so on. Do you have a roadmap for your courses? Not a strict one. I, of course, know the next course I'm working on and stuff like that. I don't share it publicly, though, because I don't want to make any promises which I then maybe can't keep because other stuff gets in the way. But I don't have like a 1-year roadmap, no. Your course on Vue, is it recommended if I want to learn Vue 2 from scratch, or does it include more Vue 3? It's about Vue 3. If you want to learn Vue 2, the course is not really for you, unfortunately. There are parts of Vue 3 which kind of work the same in Vue 2, but yeah, it's a Vue 3 course. Hi Max, your React course on Udemy is amazing. I bought the Node.js also, but the content is not updated. Can you please look into it? I'm happy you're liking the React course. Now regarding Node, the problem I'm having there is that lots of projects and companies are still stuck on those older Node versions, which makes updating tricky because Udemy doesn't give me any good updating tools. I can just replace the course for everyone and that's it. But I agree, the course would probably benefit from an update. To be very honest, not in the next like few weeks or months, but it is also on the list and I'm aware of that. And I think the timing is now better than like 1 or 2 years ago. So yeah, but I can't promise it as of now yet. Okay, I got that message a couple of times. One time is enough. How are you? I'm recently doing your Flutter Udemy course. Is it still worth to learn Flutter for life-changing? I'm truck driver in Germany at the moment, but I'm trying to improve my life. Yeah, Flutter is a great technology for building mobile apps especially. I'm not a big fan of their web app story. I'm not convinced that it's great for that. But if you want to build like Android and iOS apps with one code base, Flutter is still amazing. And I know that there have been like some rumors or like talks that Flutter is maybe not as popular anymore as it was. I can't confirm that from my student numbers. I can't confirm that from what I see in activity on like X or stuff like that. Yeah, Flutter is a good choice for building cross-platform apps. Does the fiber tree controls React element tree or what's happening there? Can you tell us everything about this? I'm not sure if I get that question. It sounds, I guess you mean how the internal workings of React, which is a bit too technical here, I would say. And I will also say that I would myself have to dive back into that to not say anything wrong here. Obviously, I know about how they generally do it with scheduled state updates, virtual DOM, and so on. But if you want like the exact inner workings, I don't have those ready right now since they also changed over versions. What are tips for a developer who wants to be self-employed like you? Can someone without followers or audience having a self-employed career and make money? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started without followers, and I'm not sure if it's now easier or harder than 10 years ago. It's probably just different. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always hard and like getting that initial traction and initial audience. I myself would always like take the YouTube approach and like try to start a channel and try to share meaningful content in a certain niche that's not as crowded. And that would probably be my way of entering the world as a self-employed person. So yeah, I think you can always do that. It's never easy, but it's always possible, I guess. When will the AI bubble pop? I don't know. I mean, AI is not going away, to be very honest. But like all the expectations and all the buzzwords and all the startups that come up every day and so on, I can't tell. All I can tell is that obviously it's been going on for 2 years and it seems to be crazier and crazier every day. And we'll see, I guess, if there is a point in time where companies decide that they spent a lot of money and they're not getting the return. But AI will stay around, like large language models and so on. They won't go anywhere. The progress has been too good, I guess, to just scrape it and say, nah, that's useless. Is Rust the future of the web? I'm not sure if it's the future of the web, if you mean like web development. Rust is definitely like a super popular language. So it has a good future, I guess. But I'm not involved enough in Rust in general, and especially not in Rust for web development, that I could say anything about that. Everybody talking about Rust. Is it worth learning? I think so. Now, the interesting thing about Rust is that it's like really polarizing, right? I see a lot of posts that essentially either complain that Rust is being used to rewrite certain tools and they don't understand it. Why are people not using C or C++ or SIG or anything like that? And then there are people that basically say Rust should be used for everything. And I don't know. I'm no Rust expert, to be very clear. I've learned Rust like 1.5 years ago. I've used it here and there, but I just played around with it, to be very honest. I'm definitely not an expert, but I liked Rust. I like the I I personally have no problem with a bit more verbose languages that have a very strict and strong type system, and Rust has that. I like their approach to memory safety. I obviously like that it's fast, and I understand the appeal of Rust, I'll say that. What do you think of wipe coding with cursor? I don't think wipe coding is is a good idea. I created a video a while ago, I guess, where I said why wipe coding is not my future, and I still stand with what I said in the video. Like, I use AI as assistance, of course. I use it as a helper, but if we really talk about wipe coding in as in we just throw prompts at it and accept the results, blindly accept the results, and keep on prompting until the app looks and works the way we want, I don't think that's a good idea. Because just because something looks and works the way you want does not mean that it will always work the way you want, that it does not maybe in some ways work the way you don't want it to work, that it has certain problems like performance or security issues, and I'm not a fan of wipe coding. Can you please explain about Angular AI? I'm not sure what Angular AI is. Is that like a thing, Angular AI? Oh, yeah, I'm not sure. You can, of course, use AI for Angular development like for other libraries, but I don't know a thing called Angular AI. What do you think about Rust? I think I shared my thoughts there. Learning new things is hard after using AI tools since I didn't write most code myself. I must deliver features, so I lack time to understand it. How to overcome? Well, yeah, I mean, it's really intriguing to use AI for everything, especially if you have to ship code, like if you have like some pressure there. But as stupid as it sounds, you have to try to make room for understanding that code, for diving back into the code and getting an understanding of what it does, and occasionally also write code on your own, because the more you rely on just AI and you never understand what it wrote, the more you become dependent on it. And at some point, you're not really a developer anymore, or it will be much harder to get back into the steering seat, I guess. Hi guys, I'm failing so many technical interviews nowadays. Does anyone experience the same thing? Okay, well, that's not primarily a question for me, because, well, I have not taken any interviews since I'm, of course, self-employed, so can't really share anything on that, unfortunately. If you want to be a web developer, I mean full stack developer, do you recommend Laravel or Node? I replied to that before by another person. Thoughts on Rust, I shared my thoughts there. My company have an Angular website, and I'm a React and Flutter developer. I want to take the Angular position. How much time will it take me to start organizing the app as enterprise apps? Is it by the same person as before? So yeah, I guess if you know React and Flutter, learning Angular is something you can do in like a month. But of course, mastering will take longer. But you can definitely like transition relatively quickly, I would say. What do you prefer, Flutter or React Native? Good question. I think React Native, but mostly because I do write a lot of React. So naturally, since React Native is also React, I can easily transfer my skills there. Whereas when I work with Flutter, it's kind of similar. It also has components, even though it's called widgets there. But it's not exactly the same code, of course, not the same syntax, not the same packages I'm working with. But that is the main reason, not really because React Native is necessarily better than Flutter, I guess. Are you planning to do a course on MCP server development? If yes, when? I thought about it. Now, I'll be very honest. Regarding MCP, I'm not sure what to make of it. It sometimes feels like a buzzword to me. I see the appeal in theory. I see the use cases. But I'm just not using a lot of MCP servers in my day-to-day life, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on a lot. So until that changes, I probably won't create a course, because I don't create courses on technologies I'm not convinced of, I'd say. For people who are good at Next.js, creative and up-to-date with the changes, especially v16, they can post on the Discord server and I will reach out. Oh, thank you so much. Would you consider Tanstack Start course? I really hope so. Nah, probably not a course, to be honest. I have explored it in my live streams a bit. I might create some YouTube videos. I won't rule that out, but I just haven't used it enough, and I don't plan on using it enough to create a full course on it, because obviously I only create courses on topics I know really well, and for Tanstack that's just not the case and probably not change anytime soon. Speaking of Next.js, use it with SST and AWS as an alternative to Vercel, yes or no? SST is really interesting, and for everybody, SST is a project which basically allows you to set up AWS resources in code, or not just resources, like entire stacks. So you can say, I want to create a new Next.js app, and then this will automatically create all the different AWS resources you need for that and deploy it for you. That being said, I've never used it, to be very honest. I've read about a lot of it. I watched videos. I find the project exciting. I have used other programmatic AWS deployment tools, like the official AWS CDK, I think it's called. But I have never used that. So I guess it's good. I just haven't used it. What is the best Linux distro in your opinion? Now, well, I don't use Linux on my desktop or on my local laptop, to be very honest. The last one I used was Ubuntu, but that's been a couple of years ago. On the excuse me, on the server, I typically use Ubuntu, but I guess all the hype right now is Omachi, so I might give that a try. Maybe a bit later this year once I find time for it. Currently, I don't have it, but yeah, I would try that. But yeah, other than that, it's just been Ubuntu. I'm not like the kind of person that sets up Arch and configures and does all the nitty-gritty details. It would probably give me joy. I just never had the time for that, to be very honest. Are there any plans for the next 4 course? I find it really fascinating as I'm absolutely burned from React, and frankly, I think Next.js is just popular due to marketing, timing, and adoption. I see your point regarding Next.js. Fair point, and I do agree, Next is amazing. I dabbled around with Next for a couple of weeks ago and enjoyed it. A course is unlikely, but it's a good point. I should probably cover that on YouTube and in a live stream. That would be awesome. Like a live stream about Next 4, better than nothing, I guess. And it is an amazing full stack framework. As I said before, I really like Vue and I do like Next as well. So yeah, a course is not planned though, unfortunately. What do you think about how to find jobs after making good projects? Just sending out applications, having a clean CV. Obviously, connections will help. But yeah, a clean CV, a good portfolio, writing good applications, and then just applying a lot is unfortunately the thing to do, right? If you don't have any other more direct channels. Networking will always help, let's be very honest. But in the end, that is the trick. And it's been easier than it is today. I'll be very honest. Like 3 years ago, everybody was looking for developers. That's not the case anymore. But that's why it's so important to have like a clean CV, a good portfolio, and make a good impression through that. Where was I? Nowadays, clients do wipe code without having knowledge in coding and creating a complete SaaS, and come to me to fix or add 1 or 2 features. It makes me more fear. Well, if clients actually vibe code and come to you to fix it, isn't that good? I mean, you could charge, I would guess, a lot of money for that. It sounds like a good source of customers, people that build stuff and you fix it. I'll be honest, building stuff is more fun than fixing stuff, but it's a good revenue source nonetheless, I guess. As an experienced developer, should I focus on becoming a better engineer who knows to use AI, build agents, etc.? Or is it good to transition into AI ML engineering? What is better for future? So I guess AI ML engineering is not necessarily safer than regular software engineering or web development. Because if you're not one of those super smart top tier brains that get hired by Meta for $100 million, your job can be automated away just like every other software developer job, if you believe that this will happen. Again, I shared before, I don't believe this will happen anytime soon, but if you believe that is the case, it doesn't matter if you're in AI, ML, or software or web development or other software. I'd say, of course, if you want to be as secure as possible, go into super niche areas like programming languages barely anybody uses, because AI won't know a lot about that. But then again, as I said before, I don't think AI will take all our jobs in the near future. Nobody can look into the future, but I don't believe that will happen, as I explained before. I have 3 of your courses in Udemy, React, Nest.js, Node.js. I'm a newbie. Should I learn Next.js for full stack, SaaS projects, or Node.js and frontend like React or Vue? Is Next.js alone enough? Next.js alone is enough. You can build full stack apps with that. It will probably be easier than building a separate frontend and backend. That being said, you should be aware that when you do rely on just Next.js, you of course learn how to build such a full stack app in a very specific way, and transitioning to a separate backend and frontend will then probably a bit harder. But if you just want to get stuff done, if you want to like build something now, you can do it with Next.js without building like decoupled backends and frontends. And you will still need to learn some Node.js though, because the backend part of Next.js, all the code that executes on the server, will very likely at some point use some Node.js APIs when you interact with files or databases. So you will still write some Node.js code, but in the end that is just JavaScript, just with a slight different feature set, I guess. How to have a look on enterprise level ways of coding, web development or Gen AI, agentic or whatever. I'm not sure if I get the question. If you mean like, nah, I don't get the question, to be very honest. Sorry. I'm thinking of going for a new language, but I can't decide. Could you recommend one among Python or C#? With AI in mind, but also what would be most sought after in the future. Obviously, Python is the AI language, right? It's used for all these AI projects. So Python is super popular, lots of competition there for lots of other developers. C# is, of course, also super popular, let's be honest. I mean, especially for game development, I guess, but also not just there, obviously. So if it's just these 2, I think you can't go wrong either way. Which one will be safer with AI in mind is hard to tell for me. I don't see either of the 2 going away, as I mentioned before. And I would just like experiment with both and go with the one you like more, because if you use a language just because it's the better choice but you don't really like it, you'll not be good at it and you'll not enjoy your job, and that's never a good base to start from. Say you have a kid that is about to go college. Would you still consider computer science now? The advancement of AI code in the last few years is mind-blowing, especially on beginner level tasks. I agree. I see that this is obviously a tricky question. Like, is it still a good career to get into computer science? And I would argue, yes, it is. It is. I mean, even as AI gets better and like helps us more and more, and may take some tasks more and more. And as I mentioned, I don't see developers going away anytime soon, but obviously it's doing more. So my belief is developers can therefore do more in conjunction with AI. And therefore I believe computer science is still a valid career in education. If you're interested in something, I think you have to do it if you're passionate for something. If you just do it because you feel like that's the smartest decision, but I'm not interested, it was never a good idea, and then computer science is probably also not a good idea. But I would not refrain from it just because AI is there, because we can't just all get plumbers because AI is there. Because let's be honest, if you talk about jobs being destroyed by AI, it's not just software engineers. It's also like lawyers, accountants. You can argue for AI taking away jobs in all these different professions. So I would still like study and learn what I personally enjoy and like. Are you planning to update the Clean Code course now that Uncle Bob has a new updated book? To be very honest, no updates are planned for that course for the near future. Hi, how are you? I'm recently doing your Flutter Udemy course. Is it still worth to learn Flutter? Oh, I answered this one already. So sorry, I have like a long backlog of questions. I'll go through them chronologically. I'll try to answer as many as possible. But if I haven't answered yours yet, I'm just like still like on the earlier questions. I feel I have a lot of AI technical debt. Can you please bring a course on all the AI stuff from AI agents, MCP, etc.? Well, one course with everything I will not release. Also because those, to be very honest, just don't sell that well anymore. Like the world has shifted. People want shorter content. Nobody wants a 70-hour course anymore. So I won't create the super AI course with everything. Also because that course will be outdated like a week after I release it because producing the course takes so long. Instead, I have individual courses. For example, I have a course on AI agents, writing them with code. I have a course for running AI locally. And that is kind of what I'll try to continue doing when it comes to AI and courses. Do you have an Angular project uploaded on YouTube or any project which will cover topics? I don't have a recent Angular project on YouTube. I got some older ones, but no recent one, no. I'm Elias. What do you think about Ionic framework future in matter of mobile apps? I'm taking your course and would like to know if it's still considered a framework in general. Hi, Elias. So as I said before, Ionic, I haven't worked with Ionic and Capacitor over the last years, so not a lot I can say there. But it's still there. You can still use it. It's still actively maintained. There are companies using it, so it's absolutely still a viable choice for building mobile apps. I will say that. I would consider also diving into React Native or Flutter simply because these are more popular. There are more resources there. There might be more jobs there, but that does not mean that you can't use Ionic if you like that, for example. Have you used Laravel before? If so, what's your opinion on that framework? I have. I've worked a lot with Laravel back in 2016, 17, 15, and so on. And I love it. It's an amazing framework. It got everything included which you could possibly need, like a database ORM, authentication, queues, notification system. If you want to be productive, let's be honest, if you want to build a full stack app, and you don't want to like manually wire together lots of different packages, Laravel is really just amazing. I'm currently doing your Node.js course. I'm curious like how you learned to build some of the functions. Did you just look up documentation? Yeah, 100%. Like when it comes to like using Node.js APIs, of course, there are certain features you use a lot, so you just know them. Nowadays with AI, you get a lot of auto-completion support where you can like use the AI agent and cursor to generate code. But yeah, I always have and still do dive into documentation. I like doing that. I want to understand what I'm using. I want to understand what's inside of a language or a package I'm using. So I dive into the documentation because typically you have a certain problem to solve. Like you want to open a file and then of course you take a look at, okay, where in the documentation are they talking about reading files? And then I take a look at the different methods I have there and so on. I just bought your TypeScript and Next.js course. Which course should I learn first? Whatever you like, because they don't depend on each other. If you want to just start building applications, go with Next.js. If you want to learn how to make your applications more type safe, start with TypeScript. I want to start building SaaS applications. I know MERN Stack and AWS as of now. Any recommendations? That sounds like a solid stack, to be very honest. So I guess you could switch out the MongoDB, for a different database if you wanted to, but there's nothing wrong with MongoDB. And therefore, I just start building because it's dangerous to get lost and try to like learn more and more technologies and get better and better before you start building. Start building because that's the best way to learn more, to see what you're missing, what you might need to pick up along the way. And that would therefore be my recommendation. Hi Max, how has life been for the past 10 years as a teacher, self-employed developer? Do you freelance apart from teaching? I have initially for the first, when I started, but no, for the last years, I have not been freelancing. Only for some rare, so a few selected old clients I have done some work here and there, but primarily it has been my own projects. It has been teaching, learning new stuff. No freelance work in the sense of getting new clients or anything like that. I find fewer job postings on Python Django stack. Why? I don't know specifically about Python Django. I think like Python for web development is a thing that's being used a lot. I know that Fast API is very popular these days, but I also believe for web development, it's really like, it's a lot of JavaScript stuff, a lot of Node.js, Next.js and stuff like that. PHP, it's like basically scattered. If it's less than a couple of years ago, that's primarily probably the case because in general, there are less jobs than a couple of years ago. I have a question other way around, Angular to React. The answer is always the same. If you know React, learning Angular will of course be easier because whilst it works quite differently, it also works with components. It has the idea of props and so on. So if you know one, switching to another will, I believe, always be a bit easier than if you start at zero, but you have to be open to the fact that there will be a lot of things that are quite different, but the mental model of breaking your application apart into components that own state and so on, that is the same. And therefore, for me, it has been Angular to React. I learned Angular first, then React, and I found it quite straightforward in the end. You have to get around the fact that you're not working with classes. That was a bit easier back then because when I learned it, React still had classes, but they worked very differently. So yeah, you get used to it, and I never found it that difficult to switch. I think you can get a lot done in a month or so. I'm thinking of going into a new, I already answered that. Investors say that financially we are not in an AI bubble. Is that the case? How are we going to get rid of the AI hype? People at my company are annoying AI shillers. Well, as I said before, we'll not get rid of the AI hype because it's there. It has its useful use cases. I'm using it. I like using it. So I know what you mean with hype. And I think that will only go away if progress gets flatter. So if like new models that are coming out and new ways of using these models, new versions of Cursor and so on, if that suddenly, if we feel like, things don't really get a lot better, the same problems we had a year ago, we still have. When we reach that point, then I think we'll see the hype kind of decrease. And that does not mean that AI goes away. It just means if we reach that point, that if, I'm not certain if we will, but if it gets flatter, then obviously companies will start to question if they really want to plow billions into graphic chips and so on. But only time will tell, I guess. As a full stack developer, is it a good idea to pivot to ML ops instead of DevOps? Whatever you enjoy is the honest answer there. And specifically, I don't know the ML ops jobs market, so I can't like give a good judgment there. But if that's something you find interesting, I believe it's always a good idea. What do we have? I answered these questions. I feel like I'm thinking of learning data science. Do you think it's a good idea for a full stack developer? I know Next.js and Nest.js. So obviously, and I don't think that's a surprise, the web development skills will only help you so much when it comes to data science, in the sense of, obviously, like, you know how to write code, and you'll write code as a data scientist typically in Python though, so you'll have to learn Python, you'll have to learn a bunch of new libraries and packages and modules you work with there. I'm not a data scientist, so I don't have any deeper insights there. I've never made that transition. It's definitely doable. I'm convinced by that. If you know how to write code in one language, in one domain, you can switch to another. It'll not happen overnight, but it's definitely doable. I'm 100% convinced by that. Any thoughts of getting rich from niche project development like on the MetaQuest 3 with React Native, 3JS, or is it hard to monetize from your perspective? Very interesting question, I'll say that. About getting rich with building stuff, building SaaS or building software in general, I think it's, and that's not a big surprise, I guess, I think it's always a good idea to not like build what has been built 100 times, but you also don't want to build what has never been built. Because if it has never been built, that probably just means it's never been successful. It probably has been built, it's just not around anymore. You could also be, maybe you had like that rare idea that nobody else had before, but chances are it's rather the case that it hasn't been successful. If you build something that already exists a dozen times, it can still work, but of course there's a lot of competition, which can be hard to surpass. So focusing on specific niches always has been and still is a good idea. And now regarding like the Meta Quest and so on, and VR in general, I don't know the market there, but I would guess that there is a market, especially in certain professions, I guess, like certain types of professions might benefit from VR and might use it, might leverage that. And if you can build software that is needed by the people that need it, you have like a very small audience, of course, but you have probably no or very little competition. So giving it a shot definitely sounds like a good idea, because it's not like you couldn't use those skills for anything else thereafter. So I guess it's worth a shot. For large-scale learning apps like Quizlet or Quizzes, which tech stack would you recommend? Angular or Next.js for the frontend, and Node.js or Go for the backend? So for one, if you use Next.js, use it for full stack. If you want to use it for just the frontend, that makes no sense to me. Just use React with React Router in that case, if you want to use React on the frontend, because Next.js really is a full stack framework, and you could use that, and it would be a decent choice, I guess, because AI can help you with that. There are a lot of resources there if you know how to use it, of course. If you don't know anything, play around with the different options you listed and see which ones you like the most, because if you build a product with that, you'll have to write a lot of code, and if you don't enjoy that, it's not a good idea. When it comes to like the ecosystems and the kind of support you'll find on the internet and the kind of support you get by AI, all the technologies you listed, like Angular, Next.js, Go, Node.js, they have great resources out there. You'll get plenty of assistance. AI knows a lot about them, so you can't go wrong there. If you want to have like a separate frontend and separate backend, React Node.js is like the obvious choice for me, because that's what I've been using, because you use JavaScript on both ends, which can be very nice. You can maybe do some code sharing, and you definitely don't have to learn totally different languages. If you use Go on the backend, that is a new language you'll have to learn, so you'll need JavaScript plus Go. That being said, Go is of course amazing and very fast. Let's be very honest, most applications we build don't need to be super fast because we got no users anyways, but yeah. Play around with them, see what you enjoy. If you just want to get something done as quickly as possible, probably just go for Next.js, because it's just one language, JavaScript, and you can build a full stack app with that. Maximilian, are you one of the folks who believe that Angular is not going to be around for long? Why do people say that? I'm not one of those folks, and I'm not one of those folks because Angular is getting used by many companies, including Google, which builds it. Google is using it on so many of their web apps and applications, internal and public facing. I don't see Angular going anywhere anytime soon. From your React course, what sections should I learn to know the basics that will allow me to understand the AGUI protocol of Copilot? I'm not sure what the AGUI protocol is, but regarding what sections you should learn to learn the basics of React, the first couple of sections are all called essentials. And once you went through those essentials sections, you got the essentials. You can then dive deeper. You can dive into some sections that might sound interesting to you. For example, the HTTP section to learn how to send HTTP requests efficiently. But you can stop after the essentials to practice what you learned and go from there. I'm a software engineer with 1 year of experience. I have a decent MER knowledge. Should I focus on learning in depth or breadth, as we have AI in the game now? Definitely for depth. Like breadth, is what AI can do. AI knows everything, or not everything, but AI knows a lot about all kinds of programming languages and frameworks and so on, but does not have a deep understanding because it has no logical understanding at all. It's just memorization and token production. So I would 100% go for death. Any suggestions, any thoughts of, we had that already. Is it necessary to understand the libraries first before generating code through AI? I would recommend just blindly trusting AI without understanding what it's generating or which tech stack you're working with is not a good idea in my opinion. Any recommendation for a useful and powerful book for learning React? And what is your opinion about learning from books? This sounds like a question for me, but it's not, I promise, because, wait a second. I have a book on React. React Key Concepts. It's my book on React. Takes you from beginner to advanced. That would be my recommendation, therefore, since you asked of it. Now, my opinion about learning from books is obviously learning from books sounds super outdated, right? I mean, in the age of AI, who learns from a book? I do. And not just because I've written one. I have written a book because I like learning from books from time to time. Because from time to time, I really enjoy just getting away from my desk, getting away from my screen, and learning with a book. And reading it and making notes. I like that. I'm fully aware that not a lot of people do, but if you're one of them, I can fully recommend it. What is the next course? The next thing I'll release will likely be an update for my AI for Developers course. AI is a multiplier of your existing skills. I do agree. Do you have any recommendations on CI/CD for React Native? Do you plan to create a course on CI/CD for both React and React Native? I don't plan on creating a course, because I don't really have any recommendations there. The only tool I've ever used for React Native deployment is Expo. I mean, Expo, like they have their EAS. What does it stand for? What does EAS stand for? Expo Application Server? I don't know. So Expo, the framework you can use, or the tool set you can use for building React Native apps, they also have their own deployment service. It's the only one I know. I haven't used it a lot, to be very honest. Just played around with it, to be very honest. But yeah, that is the one I would recommend because I don't know any else. What is the most underrated skill for a web developer? Good question. I think especially nowadays with AI, it's the skill of not using AI too much, of still diving deeper, reading the docs for open source projects, diving into the source code and really understand what's going on. Because I'll say that when it comes to web development, to front-end web development, modern browsers have so many features built in, so many APIs you could use. HTML alone has so many elements you could use that nobody knows or uses, that having that deeper understanding is a pretty valuable skill, I'd say. Because, as I said before, going for depth and understanding more and having like a deeper understanding in general is what sets you apart from AI, in my opinion. Rust thoughts, I shared them before. People who heavily rely on AI are becoming more and more dumb. I agree. As I shared in that YouTube video here, AI is making me dumber. Angular is amazing for frontend. I agree too. I like Angular. What are your thoughts on PG Lite and the PG Gateway project from Supabase? I haven't read into that, so I can't share any opinion on that. Sorry. Have you used Atlas from OpenAI, their new browser? I have not. I have not used it yet, and I'll be very honest. I'm not super interested in OpenAI's browser. I don't find OpenAI to be a company of which I necessarily want to use a browser. I just don't trust them, to be very honest. which is probably not a good reason because I don't trust Google that much either and I'm using Chrome. But anyways, I haven't used it. I might give it a try just to see how it works, but I haven't done that yet. Hi, I have bought a lot of courses like React, Node, Next.js, TypeScript, and so on, and now I do not know what to do. To dive deeper into those features I already know, or is it better to start learning security part? So learning security is always a good idea. Again, that is some deeper knowledge you can get there because security is just another area where many people just know the basics and many people don't even know those. So learning that is definitely a good idea. With all the courses you got, really just learn whatever feels like most exciting to you right now. If you just want to start building stuff, maybe go for the Next.js course because, as mentioned before, whilst it does have its disadvantages, you can just build full applications with that without having to build a separate backend and so on. Or go for React Native if you want to build a mobile app, because I feel like learning is easier if you're building something, if you like see the result of your work, if you're able to publish something. I always find that more exciting. With React, do you think the addition of new hooks is exposing issues with the library itself? Every new hook seems to be a fix to a problem developers may have encountered. I do agree there. Like, React is getting more and more complex, it feels like, because we get more and more hooks, just as you said, to fix all the different problems we might have from people using existing hooks in the wrong way. Now, I don't see that as dramatic as some people make it, to be very honest. But I do agree that React has gotten quite complex in certain situations. You don't have to use all these features, to be very honest. And I feel like in the end, the day-to-day React applications I work on are still, I'm still fine with those. But yeah, your general take is definitely one I would probably agree with. If you are learning multiple things, multiple tools or libraries, how are you keeping up to date? Most knowledge wiped from brain if not working with it for 2 weeks. So yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, I'll give you an example. For example, I said I said that I had a look at Nuxt a couple of weeks ago. I have not used it a couple of years before that, so I knew almost nothing about it when I revisited it. So the true story, or the truth is, if you're learning multiple things at the same time, it's very hard. You have to focus, and if you're not using something, you'll just lose it. Use it or lose it again. So the good thing is, if you knew something in the past and you lost it, but you then get back into it, in my experience, it's of course way easier. You don't truly lose it. It's fast to get back into it, at least. Is it a must as a BE dev? What's a BE dev? Am I missing the obvious? To learn Docker and microservices, also GraphQL and WebSocket. I'm not sure what a BE dev is. A backend dev. To learn Docker and microservices. Microservices, no. I think the microservices problem is that there has been this story that everything needs to be split up in microservices, and the truth is that it's probably just a good idea for very large companies, very complex systems. So I think for most systems, most software, most companies, you don't need microservices. Docker, yes, I would recommend. GraphQL, no. It's had its hype phase in 2017-18. I'm not sure how many people are still using it. WebSocket, yes, definitely interesting, but not a must learn. So of the 4 things you listed, I would definitely learn Docker, and WebSockets are optional. GraphQL and microservices, I would not prioritize. The current problem is that when junior developers rely too heavily on AI, there eventually won't be any true seniors left. Yeah, that's a big problem. I mean, also with companies not hiring juniors, or not as many juniors as they used to. It's a huge problem because who are going to be the seniors in the future if there are no juniors today, right? So Get just a bunch of comments here. Let's see where the next question is. So under those circumstances, not sure which circumstances, probably relies to an answer I gave before. Why give the job of writing the code to AI in the first place? Could you please give me your opinion? So what I do is I use AI for writing some of my code, simply to write some code which I don't want to write myself. As I said, boilerplate code, like if I'm building a form, let's say a sign-up form, right? If I describe what I want to have there, chances are that the result I get by AI are pretty decent, and that's just faster than me plowing through a bunch of HTML code, stuff like that. Or if I need to like set up some configuration of a package, chances are AI is pretty good at that. So using it for individual tasks is a good idea. It's just not a good idea to let AI build your entire project, in my opinion. So what do you think about people saying not to get a computer science degree in the age of AI? I answered that before. I don't think it's a good advice, because what is a good job to learn if you think AI will replace all jobs anyways? Do you want to recommend everybody to just get a plumber, become a plumber? I'm not sure. Can you please tell me what new framework should I learn? I know Next.js. So if you don't want to learn more about React and so on, which would be probably also a good idea, you could learn Next.js because it's kind of similar, and then it's not, but it's for Vue and you might enjoy that. So if you're just looking for a new framework to learn, I guess that would be my suggestion. I switched from TypeScript to JavaScript with JS docs for both Node and web dev. I use VS Code Debugger and trace the code with breakpoints. Okay, that's not a question. It's a valid approach. Personally, I prefer TypeScript, but everybody should do it the way they want. What to learn better for earning money, web development or mobile? The probably not very satisfying answer is that both are absolutely fine. Both can earn you a lot of money. Both can earn you no money. It just depends on what you're building. In general, like mobile apps is a super crowded market. Discovery is super hard. Discovery on the web is easier. It's changing how we get discovered now with ChatGPT and so on, but it's easier. But there's also a lot of competition there, of course. So ultimately, there is no clear winning strategy there, unfortunately. Without a formal CS degree, how can I self-study to find a job? As I said before, building stuff, building a portfolio. There will always be companies that want a degree, and that is what it is then. But there will also always companies that just want somebody that gets a job done, and having like a solid CV, having a portfolio, maybe do some freelance work along the way to like earn a living and have that in your CV as well, will open up some doors. Is it better to use TypeScript or JavaScript, and why? In my opinion, TypeScript. I like the type safety. It is more work. If you just want a quick and dirty script, I would probably just use JavaScript, but for all the major applications I'm building, I use TypeScript for the extra type safety, just to avoid some problems, some undefined errors I might otherwise run into, hopefully during testing, if things go worse in production, and I don't want that. What is the right way to learn web development with AI? I would say to use AI to ask follow-up questions, or to give you exercise tasks, or to give you feedback on your code, but not to use AI to generate all the code, of course. Is plain JavaScript better now that we have AI to maintain the JS doc? If you're using JavaScript with JS doc instead of TypeScript, probably, but AI is pretty good at TypeScript, and one advantage of TypeScript with AI is that all these type errors can be picked up by AI to automatically fix them, at least in some cases. In some cases, it will just add a as any, but in some cases, it will fix them. So in my experience, AI with TypeScript is pretty good. That being said, I haven't used AI with vanilla JavaScript and JS doc, so it might be pretty good there too. I just don't know that. Can you, we had that. Hello, sir. I benefited hugely from your courses. Thanks for the great content as always. Thank you. By the way, thanks to everybody who wrote all those nice comments. Means a lot to me. It's so many comments and questions. I try my best to go through all of them. But yeah, thank you all for being there. Thank you all for the amazing questions and the nice comments. Really, really amazing. People asking nonsense questions. I don't think so. I think we have a good mixture of questions here. What your favorite workflow is for preparing a course, including the writing, drawing, and editing tools you use. So that's a nice question. So when it comes to preparing a course, obviously it depends on the course, but typically it involves general brainstorming about the topics I want to have in there, coming up with a rough curriculum, coming up with demo projects. So I'll build a lot of demo projects also to see which projects are good, which projects are bad, because I want to have projects that are nice to use, realistic, but not too complex, and allow me to show the things I want to show, so that's not easy. And once I got all that in place, then I typically start recording, though sometimes I also like prepare, record, and so on. And then I edit. I record with OBS, I edit with Adobe Premiere Pro, and that is roughly the workflow I go through. And the nice thing about it is that it has a lot of like variation. I don't have to like prepare for 8 months and then record for 2 months and then edit for 2 months. Instead, I really can mix it up. And I like that. I don't like doing the same thing over and over every day. Is my profession threatened by AI? Well, it's changing. That is for sure. It's changing, and therefore it's threatened if I don't adapt. I do believe that. But then again, I always see new technologies or changes like this as an opportunity too. So it is what it is. It's there to stay, and you just have to adapt. And I guess you're only threatened if you don't adapt. Or if you're not open to the change, if you don't like, look, what can you do? How can you take advantage of it? What's your take on Vite versus Next.js? So it's not really a great comparison because, yeah, you can use Vite to create React and Vue projects, but Vite is more like a build tool and a project management tool, like a code project management tool. So and Next.js is more like the framework with a lot of built-in APIs for managing cookies and headers and server-side rendering and a lot of other stuff. So there are some overlapping parts, but in general, I use Vite if I build a standalone frontend, no matter if that's with React or Vue, and I use Next.js or React Router in the framework mode if I want to have a full stack application, for example. My opinion on Python Django. It's been some time since I last used Django. When I did use it, I found it amazing, just like Laravel. Lots of stuff built in, really nice to be productive quickly. So yeah, I think it's an awesome project and package. It was a couple of years ago. It probably still is. Is it possible to complete your JavaScript course on Udemy within 1 month and really master it? 1 month is definitely ambitious because it's a long course. Master it, you won't master anything in 1 month, but you'll get a very solid understanding, a very good foundation. Mastering it, I mean, I'm not sure if I have mastered JavaScript, but it definitely takes time. You need to practice, you need to build stuff. Taking a course in 1 month will not allow you to master anything, but having a very good foundation on which you can build up on, that is definitely possible. What do you prefer, Next.js or Remix? Remix is now called React Router, just for anybody else who doesn't know. I mean, Next.js is the more popular option, I guess. You find more resources for it. Personally, I always found Remix, React Router a bit more interesting, I'll say that. Hi Max, huge fan. Love all your videos on Udemy, React, Next.js, and AWS Cloud certifications. Do you think certifications matter anymore for web development career? So first of all, thank you for the amazing feedback, for the very kind words. Mean a lot to me. Thank you so much, Garlicnator. And yeah, I think certifications have always mattered and probably will always matter. I guess even in a world where robots rule the world, they will probably still need certification. So yeah, I think they're still useful. Can we expect a Rust course? Not anytime soon, because I'm definitely not a Rust expert. Maybe at some point in the future, but not within like the next year or so, I guess. Unless I find the type to dive super deep into Rust, and it doesn't look like that right now. Who would win in an arm wrestling match, you or Brad? Travesty. Probably Brad, to be fair. Is it better to focus on becoming a full stack developer now? It seems like there are noticeably fewer job openings for React developers lately. So the job market is difficult. There is no other way of saying that. It is. Being a full stack developer has always been a good idea, I'd say, because why focus on just the front end? Obviously, you could like try to get super good at that, and that is probably a valid strategy, but being able to like write full stack applications opens up so many doors, because suddenly you can also think about building your own side projects, build your own SaaS projects if you want to. Even if you're not getting self-employed, doing it as a side project and having the potential of releasing something, that's so amazing in my opinion, and you just don't have that if you focus on just one end. So yeah. What even is Omachi? What is the use of Linux? Omachi is a relatively new and hyped Linux distribution by DHH, so by the person behind Ruby on Rails. And why use Linux? To be very honest, in my case, just to see how good it works. I've been using Mac OS for the last 10 years. It's gotten worse, but I'm still okay with it. I'm open to exploring other operating systems and see if maybe I can be more productive, or if I maybe just enjoy using them a bit more. There is no hard reason for using Linux, for me at least. Are you interested in exploring the modern state of WordPress? It still holds like 40% of internet, and it's an awesome environment for newbies to get into web dev. I agree. And it has been part of my entry into web development many, many years ago. I don't think I'm interested in WordPress right now. It's just not a technology I'm interested in, to be honest, which does not mean that it's not a good idea to get into WordPress if you're relatively new to the field. And I'm convinced that there is a decent amount of money to be earned as a WordPress expert. Because, as you said, it runs a decent chunk of the internet. Did I talk about Nuxt? I did. I said that I won't be creating a course anytime soon, but that I like Nuxt a lot and that it would be a good idea for a future stream. Hi Max, big fan here. Loved your GitHub Actions and Docker course. Which tech stack you think is gonna be the best options to learn? Again, thank you so much. Which tech stack is the best option to learn? I'm not sure if you mean like Docker or GitHub Actions, though these are not really alternatives. So if we're talking about general tech stack like React, Angular, Next.js, and so on, I've said it before. Next.js is very popular. AI knows a lot about it. It's probably a good idea for that reason. I personally am a bit more of a fan of Remix, or now React Router, or having a decoupled React frontend and a separate backend like an Express or a Hono with Bun backend. And I would just explore different options there if you have the time for that, to see what you like the most. If you don't have the time, I would just go for Next.js probably, because of all the resources you can find for that. Are you going to use NeoVim? I tried it at the beginning of this year indeed, and maybe I'll give it another try, but for now I just can't get into it. I feel like I have to spend so much time to get really good at NeoVim, and maybe then I would be way more productive, so it might be worth it, but then I just had to get stuff done, and I switched back to VS Code. I think we had that or similar questions. Is there a module in your course you talk about SEO? I don't think I have any course or any course module that would focus on that. Also, to be very honest, because SEO is not something I would call myself an expert on. I'm trying to get better, but I'm not necessarily an expert. Can you suggest some project specific to front-end roles rather than clone projects? I mean, in the end, everything's a clone. You won't reinvent the wheel. But if you just want to show that you're really good at front-end stuff, building complex landing pages where a lot of stuff animates could be interesting, or building like complex single-page applications that just simulate a certain app. You will always need a backend if you want to build a real app, right? You can't just build a real app with just the front end, because you'll need authentication, which needs a backend and so on. But you could, of course, like simulate it. You could like have a dummy HTTP calls and so on, and then just, well, I don't know, if you say don't clone anything, it's impossible because everything is a clone. But build a complex dashboard, build your own ChatGPT version if you don't want to call it a clone. Do something like that. Think of complex front ends. Take a look at other sites that might look interesting to you, where you think, how did they build that? And try building it on your own. That is what I would try to do. Have you read SQL Anti-Patterns book? I started reading it recently and seems to have very good content. I haven't, but might be a good recommendation. Thanks so much. Ever since Next.js introduced the app router, it takes 10 seconds to compile a page. Do you think Next.js is deprioritizing developer experience? Oh man, don't get me started on that. I've worked on projects where it's been so annoying because everything kept on compiling and compiling and compiling. I will say with TurboPack, which is their own Webpack alternative. I don't know why they're building it, why they're not just using Vite, but it is what it is. With TurboPack, things got a lot better for me. And I'm away of the 10 seconds compilation times with that. So I would recommend giving TurboPack a try. How to learn algorithms if I'm stupid? Well, I think LeetCode still is a site you could use for that. And you obviously can use AI for help, not to have it write the code for you, but to have it explain solutions to you, walk you step by step through the solutions or through code snippets you might not understand. That would be my recommendation. A lot of comments here. I'm thinking of moving to Germany or Netherlands. Getting a job directly is looking very hard. Thinking of doing my master's in computer science from a decent uni in Germany or Netherlands. Can you please suggest? Well, not a lot I can share there, I guess. I haven't studied computer science in Germany or the Netherlands, but we have decent universities in Germany. The Netherlands certainly do have that too. And if you want to live in one of these countries, and as I said before, getting a computer science degree, in my opinion, still is a good idea, but why not? Why not? But I can't give you a strong suggestion because I just haven't studied it here, so I don't have any insights into that. Don't you believe there is a recession in developer jobs? Oh yeah, definitely. There have been way better times, and it's rough. There's no way to. It doesn't make sense to talk around there, right? It's rough. It's been better. Big fan of your Angular courses here. Do you think Angular is the framework for the ERP-like systems, or do you recommend another framework? Angular is definitely great at that, and Angular is especially popular in big enterprises. Obviously, not all of them. Many of them are using React, but Google, for example, is using Angular a lot, and so are others. And it's definitely suited for building complex ERP-like systems or anything like that, I would say. Hi Max, just curious what experience you have with strongly typed languages and the related frameworks, for example, Java, Springs, .NET. I have some .NET experience, but it's been some time, to be very honest. Other than that, for me, it's mostly been TypeScript because I've been in the JavaScript Node.js world for so long and so intensely for the last couple of years. Any freelancing jobs in Rust? I don't think there will be a lot of freelancing jobs there because it's pretty niche, which might also mean there's not a lot of competition. But yeah, I wouldn't expect a lot of jobs to be there. But I don't know. I haven't looked. It's just my gut feeling. What's the best AI to coding? I have noticed some Git repositories with literally LLMs inside. Are some coders now using a local LLM trained for a specific project? I don't think that's like a mainstream thing. I think most developers use the big LLMs. Like in Cursor, they use Claude, Sonnet, or GPT-5. I don't think like local LLMs. I like local LLMs a lot. They are useful for a lot of tasks. Coding is like if you give them a lot of examples, you can use local LLMs. But of course, they're not as powerful, don't have as much knowledge like the big ones, which is why I don't think it's the mainstream thing to do. Oh, and we got an answer to the Rust question. So yeah, looks like there are jobs with less competition, so it doesn't sound too bad. How can I improve my Flutter learning? I'm doing your Udemy course, but what can I do besides watching it? How can I practice and learn more? You gotta build stuff. So whatever you're learning, you have to build stuff. It's the only way. Unfortunately, though I think building stuff is fun, just think of some basic apps you would like to build, like a step tracker or like a goals list, a goals app, or whatever it is. Doesn't have to be complex, but you gotta build stuff. That's the only way of learning. Got a couple of repeated questions here. Have you thought about creating a course on content creation as a technologist? No, I haven't, and I like creating courses. I don't think I'm an expert in content creation, though. I don't have like the biggest YouTube channel or anything like that. There are probably people that are more experienced at that, so I wouldn't rule it out forever, but it's definitely not planned right now. Nest.js or Express.js? I guess Nest.js is the more batteries included solution with strong TypeScript support out of the box, obviously. Express.js is the thing that has been around forever, that is well documented, has a rich ecosystem, and is probably getting used by way more companies. So I would probably go for Express.js, but Nest.js is pretty amazing, but it's been a couple of years since I last worked with it. As a self-taught developer looking for more credibility, would you recommend Azure or AWS certification? AWS is like the biggest cloud provider, so I would probably go for their certifications, unless, of course, you explicitly want to go for the smaller one because maybe there are less competing people looking for jobs. In that case, you could go for Azure, and it's smaller, but not small, just to be clear. But yeah, otherwise, I'd go for AWS. I just took your React course, and so far I'm loving it. Awesome to hear that. Thank you so much for the awesome feedback. Means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Is your React Native course still relevant? Yes, it is. I did a bootcamp for JavaScript for like 6 months, and I took a break afterwards due to my personal reasons for work. How long do you think I should take me to refresh my memory? So if you did a JavaScript bootcamp and then you had to take a pause, I think getting back into it will only take like a few weeks normally, especially if you're like building stuff to get back into it. In my experience, it's a bit like riding the bicycle. You never really unlearn that, so it's relatively easy to get back into. At least that's how it has always been for me. When you learn from books or videos, you find some ideas are difficult. How do you work with that? Read it again? Wait till tomorrow? Yeah, read or watch it again. If you still don't get it, maybe wait a day. And what I do is I just play around with it. I try to build stuff with the concept I maybe don't understand, because sometimes by building, I find out what the true idea behind a certain feature I might not be getting is. And if I still don't get it, maybe the resource is just not that great, or maybe not in a style that's good for me. So then I will look for other resources in addition, like official docs and so on. Did you ever try Elysia.js in Bun? I think it's a really great framework to replace Express. It's even better than Hono, in my opinion. It's on the list. I haven't used it yet. It's on the list, though. I've only used Hono, but I'm aware of Elysia, and it's something I would try to try out. Hello, sir. I'm learning MERN-Stack now. In 3 years' time, I would like to be a freelance developer. Can you suggest most important points to consider in order to become a self-employed person? I think you can be quicker than that, to be honest. The most important thing is really build stuff, to practice, to become good, to have a portfolio you can show, because as a freelance developer, you will likely also need that. And then just get started, because it will take some time. It will definitely be tough. There is competition out there. Get started. I would recommend to never sell yourself too cheap. I mean, if you're getting started, you can't dictate high prices, but I would, for example, never do work for free, because once you set that baseline, it can be tough to get away from that. So that's one thing I would do besides building stuff and learning. Don't sell yourself too cheap. I'm a Flutter developer and having overall experience in Flutter of 5 years. I'm looking for a job for like months now, but couldn't find any decent job. What are your views about it? I've taken your React web course to upskill myself, but I'm thinking of going in DevOps field. So DevOps, I think, is definitely a good idea. DevOps is a more, I guess a bit more niche and a more advanced area, in my opinion, or at least that's how it feels to me. So I think that can be a good idea to like pick up some knowledge there as well, because that might make it possible for you to get into some jobs that simply have less competition, for example. But yeah, I've said before, as I've said before, the job market is really, really tough, and unfortunately there is no single magic trick I could recommend to make it easier. I would love to, but yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately. There's a lot of hype for React, but I see Angular code more maintainable than React. Well, yeah, I don't think React is... It's a personal preference thing, right? I like both. Initially, as I said, I started with Angular. I had some problems with React initially, but then I got used to it. Yeah, ultimately, there is no better or worse, I guess. I'm a basketball fan, and I always hear that the NBA stars emphasize the importance of basic skills. So I was wondering, what are those basic skills that even seniors would still use in programming? Almost like a philosophical question. I think like the basic skills you will always need is being able to write clean code is probably the basic skill that's hard to get and maintain. So readable code, avoid unnecessary abstractions, especially as you get more advanced and experienced. It can be tempting to write code that's unnecessarily complex. So being able to keep it simple and have that simple, clean code, as dumb as it might sound, I think that might be one skill that good senior developers still have, that you should build pretty early on as you're getting started. Any plans on a course for n8n? Yeah, maybe. Not in the next few weeks, I guess, but n8n is something I've been using a lot, and so has my colleagues, so we might have something coming up there, but I can't promise it yet. What is your opinion about Go, and which framework would you suggest? I like Go a lot. I have a Go course. I've been using Go a lot over the last couple of years. Now, I haven't really used it that much for web development, to be very honest. For frameworks, I've been using Jin a lot, but I haven't like used a lot of different frameworks, so I don't have I can't really compare them that well. I have been using Gin. I like that. But that's unfortunately all I can say there. From an architectural standpoint, which principle is better? Separating the backend from the frontend or using an integrated meta framework like Next.js that handles both? I'm not sure if you can answer this from an architectural standpoint because both is fine, of course. Like having one integrated app can make certain things easier related to deployment, related to cookies and stuff like that. CORS is not an issue. So I guess an integrated app is easier when it comes to that, but both is of course fine. And the problems you have from a separate backend and frontend are both solvable. And an integrated approach can introduce other problems which you don't have with separated solutions. So both is fine, but I think easier is the integrated solution, especially initially. Have you ever coded an HTML email? Oh yeah, I have, and it's horrible. I mean, it's like we're stuck in the 1990s. Not a lot of fun. Any advice to speed up the transition from working with Angular to React? Well, hard to answer this one. I'm not sure how you speed up that transition. By, as always, building stuff, because that's the only way of getting better and of getting a feeling for how certain things work. As unsatisfying as this answer might be. What would you advise a newly graduated who looks forward to self-employment? Any things to keep in mind? So, of course, the question is self-employed as what? If you want to be an indie hacker, it's of course different from being a freelancer. For freelancers, I already said, don't sell yourself too cheaply and so on. If you want to build software as a service products, if you want to become an indie hacker or anything like that, I think I would embrace AI. I would not blindly rely on AI though. That's true for every developer, but especially self-employed. You might be inclined to let AI do a lot because you want to move fast. That can be a bad path to take because you get dependent on AI, and at some point you might it might cost you more time than it saves you to fix certain problems and get back into the code. So I would not rely too much on AI, but I would definitely use it. Sharing progress or building a social audience on X or YouTube can be a good idea because these are all potential customers. So I would try stuff like that and not solely rely on search engine results and so on. But yeah, I think you could talk an hour about that, but these would be some initial thoughts I have there. What would you recommend to do to omit usage of AI? I mean, when I have an error, I often do not understand where it's coming from, even after I look right at the problem. When I ask AI, it shows me so obvious problem. Maybe I need to repeat some basics. So yeah, I would just turn off AI and force myself to write some code or fix a certain problem without AI, no matter how tempting it might be, because that is a good way of making sure your skills stay sharp and you're still able to get stuff done on your own without AI. When will the React Native course be updated? I don't have any plans for the super near future. Definitely on the list, but not with the highest priority right now. So I can't really share a date on that yet. Will you make a video on YouTube to help what might interviewer ask for live coding for job interviews? I don't have a lot of experience with that, unfortunately, so I won't create YouTube videos on that because I don't want to talk about stuff I haven't really experienced myself in the last couple of months or years. AI makes plumbers very popular. Yes, it does. It does. True story. In my view, you are a god tier web developer. That's far too kind. I'm probably decent or very good, but god tier, there definitely are many, many better web developers than me, to be very honest. Have you ever thought about making SaaS products? If I feel you can make anything. If no, what's the reason? Oh, I am. So the reason why I haven't done it is that the last couple of years, I just so much enjoyed creating courses and that I spent a lot of time on that, pretty much all my time and some time on some client projects for long-term clients. But yeah, I am building SaaS products. I mean, I released one basically just to get something done. Business Headshots AI, which allows you to generate headshots with AI. I'm not the first one, but it's quite affordable and quite good. Just because I enjoy it. And yeah, I want to build more. It's just hard to find the time for that. But I definitely want to ship some products just for the fun of it, to be very honest. But of course, if I make some sales, I'm very happy about that too. And I got lots of ideas. I just need to get there step by step. But it is quite interesting to do that, I think. What do you think about learning Laravel as a backend? Good idea. Laravel is amazing. As I said before, definitely a great framework. I'm a JavaScript web developer with 7 years of experience. I've been diving into Docker, Kubernetes lately. Awesome course, by the way. Thank you so much. Happy you're liking it. Quick question. Do you think it's worth learning another language like Java? Some companies skip my profile since I don't have Java or .NET. Maybe some essentials so that you can put it on your CV. Like entirely moving to Java will of course be a significant investment, and the same for .NET. So if you absolutely can't find a job, it might be worth a try to like get a bit into it and see if that changes things, if you have it on your CV, even if you're not an expert. Yeah, so I think that would be my suggestion there, to just, but going hardcore all in on it. I mean, if you have a lot of experience in a different tech stack, you can do it, but I'm not sure if it's the best idea. What do you need to learn to create a Canva clone? Well, in the end, you just need JavaScript for front and a back end, something like React, and then you can get there step by step. It will be complex, but that is a solid foundation. And it's not just React. You could use Vue or Angular too, and then you could take it from there. In backend, oh, we had that already. We had the systems design question. So all these courses about system design, software architectures, best practices, probably a good idea. I'll try to put it a bit higher up on my list of courses, but the list is so long and there are so many high priority topics on there. So, but yeah, I've heard it. I'll see if I can do something about that. Each LLM update makes the vibe coding much easier. So if people can make their needs with LLMs, then how freelancing jobs will survive. Some people will just go for vibe coded apps. I don't believe we're at a point, and I don't believe we'll be at a point in the near future that makes vibe coded apps as viable or fully viable, because they will still have issues. Or there always is a chance of them having issues, to put it like this. I would not put an app into production that is purely vibe coded. People will do that, but I think people will also learn that it was not a good idea. Hi Max, I'm a student and I have to learn 2 languages, and that is hard to try learning development. What would you recommend to learn languages to apply to university or to keep learning that way? You mean programming languages or like human languages? Like if we're talking about 2 programming languages you have to learn, I'm not sure which university would force you to do that, to learn 2 languages. But if it's any 2 languages, I'd try to learn 2 that aren't too distinct from each other. Something like, I don't know, JavaScript and TypeScript, if that counts, or TypeScript and C# have some similarities. I would probably go for something like this, but it's a weird requirement. Are you a writer? Well, I wrote a book, the React Key Concepts one I mentioned before, but I don't consider myself in general a writer. Like, I wrote this book, which is the 2nd edition. I wrote the 1st edition, but I don't have any other books. Is test automation becoming obsolete? I don't think it is. I work as a full stack developer, PHP, and I specialize in ads ops, engineer developer, and AI take dev jobs. So what's next for me as a developer? I'm not on board with the AI takes dev jobs in general narrative, to be honest. I shared that before. If you are convinced that it is, then I think And in general, a good idea is to go deeper, become an expert in a certain area. Breadth is what AI is pretty good at. Depth is what can set you apart from AI. So that would be my recommendation there. What was your first exposure to programming and when did you realize you liked it? That's a very nice question. So my first exposure was, and I don't know why, but I think when I was around 12 years old, I had my first PC back then, or maybe my second PC, and like it was back then, so you not all the game. You got some games in various ways, and I found an interest in like playing around with game configuration files and stuff like that, or with game editors like map editors that were parts of certain games and stuff like that. And I think that's how I got into programming. And then I asked my parents to get some programming books for Christmas, because back then we had no internet. And I got a C book. So the first real language I learned back then was C, and I just loved it. I just loved being able to make the computer do stuff, and that is when I fell in love, and it hasn't changed since then. What about you? Update about yourself. You mean, no, sorry, where have you been? Oh yeah, you mean update about myself, about my life? It's still good. I'm fine, I guess, and I'm doing what I always did for the last couple of years now, just also trying to see how AI fits into that picture, what I can do with AI, how I can efficiently use it, how I can teach better with AI, how I can teach AI or using AI, and yeah, that's me, I guess. What's your idea about Cursor? I like Cursor a lot. I think it's a really great IDE. I like working with AI, as I mentioned before. And so, yeah, I like Cursor. I think it works really well, and I feel like I can be productive with it. Is it a good idea to do something so drastically change into programming? Meanwhile, the AI is here, and what would be a good stack to choose and learn through your membership? So through the Academy Pro membership. So, as I said before, with AI around, it's scary for sure. The best thing you can learn if you already know about programming is to use AI efficiently, because there is this saying, which is it's a bit dumb, but there is the saying, AI will not take your jobs. Somebody that knows how to use AI will take your job. And it's a bit catchy and I don't like it too much, but it has some true core. I feel like AI is here, AI will stay. Learning how to use it efficiently is a good idea in my opinion, which is why I have been creating some courses on that for AI with for developers, or using local AI models, or building AI agents. And so I would really try to leverage AI for writing code or for building applications that use AI. And I think that's a good idea going forward, I believe. Besides learning all the fundamentals and going deep, which I also said, but embracing AI is what I do and what I recommend, to be honest. Hi Max, I finished your Vue.js course on Udemy. I got a job. I've been working for 4 years. Thank you so much. Amazing course that got me a job. That's just amazing to hear. Stories like this, if somebody gets a job or is able to change their career because of my courses, that's the most amazing thing to read. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. Really, really means a lot to me. Thank you so very much. Thanks, Max, for all the knowledge you've shared over the years. Keep it up. Appreciate your thoughts on the state of dev too, as things evolve over time. Thank you. Appreciate the very kind words. My company is using Vue, thus I shifted from React to it. Is it still popular? Which would help me to land a new job if necessary? React has more jobs, but more competition. Vue has less jobs and probably less competition, therefore. So if you shift it, that means you know both. So why not apply for both? Because even if you've not used Vue, or if you've not used React for like a year or so, getting back into it shouldn't be too hard. So why not leverage your knowledge of both? That's what I would do. Do you think the state of generative AI is going to improve much from today's perspective? Compared to 3 years ago, it improved a lot, but it seems the curve is flattening a little, especially coding assistants seem to not become much better lately. I agree a lot. To me, it also feels like we still have progress. Compared to a year ago, it's better, but also mostly because I think the tools that use AI have become better. The AI models themselves, I'm not sure if they have become that much better. It might just be mostly the apps that are using them. So I would agree. It feels like it's becoming a bit flatter. And it will be super interesting to see where we are in a year from now. That will be really interesting. If we have another big jump, that probably means it's not flattening anytime soon. But if we feel like things haven't changed a lot, also from a tools perspective, as I said before, that might mean that the overall AI hype might be slowing down a bit. But overall, as I also said before, Gen AI is pretty amazing, especially like all the video image generation, which has improved dramatically compared to a year ago. It's here to stay. It changes many things, not all to the better, to be very honest. But I think if you just ignoring it is not the solution. So that's my take on it. You have an excellent Go course. Thank you so much. Do you plan to create a course on Rust? Yeah, I said before, I like Rust. I'm just not an expert, so got no plans right now. But I would love to once I feel like I'm a bit deeper in Rust and I can provide some valuable knowledge about it. Have you looked into Elixir and the Phoenix framework? The Erlang Beam virtual machine is excellent for robust concurrent systems. Live view is awesome too. I've heard good things. I have not used it at all or looked into it at all, so I can share absolutely nothing about it, unfortunately. What do you think about n8n? It's an amazing tool. I like it a lot. It's really nice for building workflows, automations. Obviously, you can do it with code too, but if you don't know how to write code or if you just want a visual flow, I really like it. Rust course, please. I heard you. I just need to get better before I would want to create a course on it. But yeah, I won't rule it out forever, but definitely not for the next few weeks or months. Are you planning an Android course? Your JavaScript course helped me a lot. I'm happy to hear that the JavaScript course was helpful, but Android, I'm not into Kotlin. I'm not an expert on that. I'm using React Native or Flutter for my mobile app development efforts, and so yeah, an Android course is not planned. What is Omachi? It's that Linux distribution here, an alternative to Ubuntu, if you want to call it like this. I am taking your 100 Days of Code course, and it's a wonderful course, much better than Zero to Mastery, and I'm understanding stuff that I struggle with. I have a question though. How do I learn faster? I'm only watching 2 videos per week. How do I stay motivated? If motivation is the issue, it's always hard to answer. I think the best way of getting more motivated is to build towards a concrete goal. Like say, I want to build, I don't know, a very simple application that you actually might want to publish. Let's say an application where people can upload PDF documents and you convert them into charts or something like this. And suddenly you get something to build towards to, but you don't have the skills yet. So that might be a good motivation to just keep on going to get those skills step by step so that you can achieve your goal. That's one thing you could try. I'm 24. Is it too late to learn to code? No, absolutely not. The opposite. Nowadays, it's easier than ever, I would say. So it's definitely not too late. What's the next course you would like to publish? The next course will actually be an update for the AI for developers. And thereafter, I don't know yet. And I don't want to promise anything which I don't keep. So yeah, the update is the next course, so to say, that I plan, but I got no concrete date for that either. For the next 5 years, what's going to be the best tech to work with, except from the AI LLM hype? Depends. In the web development world, React and Next.js is probably a safe bet because of AI. I know you wrote without from the expect from the AI hype, but because of the AI, more and more React code is getting written. Everybody's using that, so that could be one definition of the best tech. Of course, there are different definitions. Hello there, I'm new here. I see that Omachi runs on Arch Linux, but can the Hyperland run on Debian 13, or do you know if it will work well? I don't know. I'm absolutely no expert on that. I've never set up Hyperland myself or dabbled with Arch Linux, so sorry, can't share anything on that. Why no updates on the Node.js course for a long time? I shared that earlier. A problem is Udemy doesn't give me good ways of updating courses, and for Node specifically, lots of companies are still using the old style. And then there are many concepts which are not old, they haven't changed. So the course is not super outdated. I do agree that there is stuff that could be changed. It's just hard to change it without breaking the progress of a lot of people, which is why it has not been a priority. But it's on the list for things I'd like to update. I just want to get it right, and I don't have a timeline for it yet, and I definitely don't want to make any false promises. How to avoid wanting perfectionism at a big company where others don't care and the existing code base is messy and complex? Is this just a normal thing in enterprise tech to deal with? Not that I have too much experience with that, to be very honest, but yeah, I think often the goal is just to get something done, and people don't care too much about code quality. And of course, long term, that's not a good idea because you will pay the price if something becomes unmaintainable. And dealing with that, I imagine, is super hard. It would be super hard for me. It's super hard for me to deal with my own messy code from yesterday. But if it's your job, I think at some point you just have to adjust and say it is what it is, and at least try better for new projects or projects you own, I guess. So, unfortunately, it's 7 p.m. here in Germany. I gotta go. I know there still are many questions I was not able to answer. I'm very sorry about that. I'll do sessions like this again, obviously. So thank you all so much for joining. I hope I was able to go through many questions some of you find interesting. Sorry if I was not able to answer your question again. I'll do more streams like this. In general, I'll keep on streaming whenever it's possible. It will not be possible next Thursday, but in general, I try to stream on Thursdays. I post about it on X and on our Discord channel. In case you're not part of that channel, on academy.com under community, you can join that server. And yeah, I hoped you liked it. I wish you a great day, evening, morning, whatever it is for you. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for all the donations. Means a lot to me. So amazing. Sorry if I did not call you out. I do apologize for that. Ministrionke, I just saw it and I saw one before. Thank you all. Have a great day and hopefully see you in future streams. Bye-bye. And by the way, I'll upload this video here on my second channel, Maximilian Extended. So if you missed the beginning or so, you can watch it there tomorrow. I'll upload it tomorrow. You'll see all my past streams there too. So, yeah, I am in Germany. I'm actually in Munich even. But yeah, have a great day. Bye-bye.